Extraordinarily hello, everybody, and welcome. Extraordinarily welcome to Live with Kyle and Alex. We have a wonderful guest today, and I am excited. We have Johnathan Lee Iverson from Ringling and Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. I've always wanted to run away with the circus. And talking to Jonathan, I will run away with the circus, but I unfortunately can't run away with Ringling Brothers. But anyway, good to see you guys. Welcome, 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 Jonathan.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so
I'm
much.
thrilled.
I see.
I have to say one thing. I got to say this. I have. I don't know how you got into the circus yet, but I've always wanted to. I've thought about it, running away with circus. I think kids and everybody. I'm sure at one point, kids when they go to the circus, they probably thought about running away with the circus, and you were a part of it, and I'm rather envious.
Well, no, I don't blame you. You should be. It was quite the fantasy, and it still is. I still ringmaster from time to time for various shows. The
Mhm.
Bernardo Circus was my most recent showing. Wonderful show. It's the little circus that could, founded by a former ringmaster with Ringling Brothers by the name of Kevin Bernardos, who just took it upon himself to create his own show, and it's been very successful. It was wonderful. We had a little snafu in Shreveport, of course, with the whole outbreak of COVID
Mhm.
19. Yeah, we just had to cut things short, like every live event all over the world, including Feld Entertainment. I mean, they had to cut like 90% of their staff.
Yeah.
So it's really hit everybody like a it's like an atomic bomb for the live entertainment industry and live events, period. I also do a lot of professional speaking and things of that nature. So, as far as that's concerned, I really am in the midst of reinvention again.
Oh yeah. I understand you were with the circus for what, 20 years or more?
Almost close to. It was supposed to only be a year or two. I was going to get some
Yeah.
money. I was going to fly to Europe and
Yeah.
continue to study opera. But once you get that sawdust in your blood,
Yeah.
it turned into a whole 18 years and a wife and two children later. Uh,
Know the
it was like,
feeling.
okay, well, we've got a great career here. So yeah.
So Alex, I my first Ringling Brothers show I saw back in 2011 with Brian Crawford Scott fully charged.
Really?
Yeah, fell in love with it, and then I was like, man, this would be be my dream job, join Feld and the rest of the gang and stuff. And after a while, the whole thing shuts down, and then and so I'm like, well, what can I do next? So now I just started promoting shows all over the globe, and well, not even globe, but Tucson in general, and kind of that. And I still have a picture. I still have a picture
Now,
of us.
wait a minute. Now I'm jealous again. You have a picture with him. I
I
didn't know
do.
that. Kyle, Kyle, talk this over. We got Kyle. I didn't know that. You're hiding things here. Great picture.
I do.
A cool
Uh,
picture. Yeah.
yeah, so I still have one with Paulo and Andre McLean and now David Shipman and the rest of the people. So something to look back on every single year.
Yeah. Yeah. Being able to do something you really love is amazing. Like you were saying, the years were almost 20 some years, and now you're loving it. And I did the same thing, like in acting. It just keeps going on and on,
Yeah,
and then you realize, wow, it's been that long. But when you
right.
do something you love, the time goes by fast.
Absolutely. And it's not work at all. And I mean, for
Yeah,
me, it was even more so I did something I didn't know I would love. It
really.
was completely out of left field. I didn't plan to ever join the circus. It wasn't even in
Yeah.
my thought patterns. I used to go a
Right.
lot when I grew up in New York City, so I would go
Wow.
to
Okay.
Madison Square Garden, like most kids, and
Oh yeah.
you enjoy the show. But those people were from another world to me. I didn't, nobody thought, okay, I'm going to do that for a living. I
Right.
just thought, wow, this is great. is I get to fill up on cotton candy. You get to have all the bad food you want. You get to just be outrageous and take in all of the
Yeah.
sights and sounds and smells and everything like that, and just have a ball. That's what the circus was to me. I never thought of it as a career. I really thought those people were like, otherworldly. They were
Yeah.
magical. People could fly. They could do all these daring, wild things. I didn't think of them as I really didn't even think of them as human beings. I was like, they're like, yeah, you're like, oh my goodness, these people are out of a comic book or something, and who knew?
And I tell you, your stage presence is amazing. And I can't imagine anyone that hasn't seen you in the circus. But if you haven't, you've missed something really amazing. It's like you were born to do that.
I
And
feel like it. Yeah, I feel like it. It's interesting how listen, being in show business, being an actor,
yeah,
you really 90% of our life is action. So we're pretty tough people
yeah,
because 90% of it is rejection, and most of the time it has nothing to do with your talent. It's usually
yeah,
just type,
yeah,
and I've had directors, I've had producers say that to me.
yeah,
I had a producer stop me in the middle of audition. He's like, "Look, I love your voice. You would be perfect for this role, but you're just too tall."
yeah,
Stuff like that. But for
absolutely.
some wild reason, when the opportunity with Ringling Brothers came around, it was like a hand to glove. It fit, and it was a
Right.
perfect fit for me, and I was really grateful for it. And listen, as a performing artist, um, the greatest success is being a
Yeah,
working artist. You get to work, you get to enjoy your craft, and if you happen to find something new, like I did with circus, I had no idea that would be even a career choice. And you get in where you fit in, go for it. Don't be too stubborn. You get some people, they have their plan and they want to stick
right,
to the plan. But I always encourage people, listen, that detour may not be too bad. And,
right,
and
yeah.
you might enjoy that detour, and that detour might actually be what you're for anyway. So I say, yeah, go take those detours. You never know.
I mean,
So what are you doing right now?
Right now, since the rug fell out from under me again, with this whole thing with this virus, really right now I'm just trying to piece together some things to figure out, okay, now how do I make this online world work for me?
right,
Because
Right.
the way I see it with this particular incident that we're experiencing, I really predict that we're going to see an acceleration in automation. We're going to see an acceleration in remote jobs. I have no doubt that executives are sitting back right now making those decisions. What can we cut out? What can
right,
we not? What overhead don't we need? And
Right.
I think we're going to see a dramatic shift in our workforce and in the economy. I think that's what's going to happen. And so, you know, the wonderful challenge, it's somewhat stressful, but you don't grow without stress, is
right,
really trying to figure out, I know I can do it. And I know I have enough creative energy to do it. Right now, it's really about, okay, what can I create for myself that is not only exhilarating to me personally, fulfilling, because I don't want to just be doing something for a buck. That's the worst
right,
thing in the world. I want to be
Right.
doing something that, brings me to life. But also, if it brings me to life, I know it's going to bring others to life. That's what it was like. I could see it in you, as an actor, it just comes out of you. The joy, there's
It
nothing
does.
better than working with people where you go, man, you were made for that, because they're always going to give you more than you could ask for. That's what it was like working uh, for a place like Ringling Brothers, because everybody was in their perfect place, and
yes,
everybody, they had such pride and dignity. And I'm not just talking about the performers, even the crew. There was a dignity to what they did. And they knew, you know what, I'm making such a contribution to this wonderful thing here, this wonderful space here, and it's making people happy and it's bringing joy to people. And I think the greatest payoff is you never know how far that reach may go. I've heard some remarkable things from people about the work I've done. And I'm up there just singing and hollering and selling sawdust dreams. I'm thinking, but somebody it could be life saving. It could be a new dream of theirs. I've had people tell me, wow, seeing you do this made me really shift something in my life. And now I want to do this over here. And I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing. I think we grow, we find out what our kick is, and then we try to perfect it as possible, and then we share it, and then it lights somebody else up. So I believe, let your light shine until you set the world on fire.
Absolutely. You know, and I've always said it's such a blessing to be able to be working at something that you would pay them to do.
Yeah,
And you.
absolutely.
Is that the most incredible thing? It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. You
I
know,
always felt like I was stealing money. I mean, like I worked,
yeah,
because I'm like, it was always fun to tell people what I did, because it's so unbelievable,
Yeah.
It's like, you do what? Yeah, yeah, you're ringmaster for a circus, but yeah, how do you have a bad day? You'd have, you know,
I, I think
I,
Kyle has a little ringmaster in him for some reason. I think he's trying to be like you when he grows up.
I think Kyle was always nipping at our heels. We'd
Yeah,
see him come in, and yeah, I
yeah,
said, "Look, he'd come in with a lot of other enthusiasts. There were some others as well who were really. The thing we always appreciate with folks like Kyle is
mm,
the appreciation was so authentic,
oh
and
yeah,
and you could tell these were people who really took in what we were doing, and they kind of took it a little farther, where they would really study it and really want to
mhm,
understand the humanity behind it. And that was
Yeah.
always something, especially for circus artists, I think, because I think circus as a genre of entertainment gets a bad rap. I mean, just the name circus itself, it's
oh,
always this unfortunate connotation with negativity and things of that. But people like Kyle, when they tell the story, it really puts the kind of spin on it that we would desire.
Yeah, because Chuck Wagner, I have him coming in Tucson in September. We had to postpone because of the virus, but he's Broadway. He's been everywhere, and he was way back when you were, wasn't he?
Yeah, Chuck Wagner, he actually came maybe a year or two after I left the first time. So I left
Oh, okay.
Ringling Brothers for a few years back in 2004. And then Chuck came in. I really loved Chuck's voice. I mean, it's so funny. We used to have conversations about like
Yeah.
different voices and stuff like that. And I swear, I was like, man, if Chuck did this, it was like, I always felt like Chuck was like maybe 10, 20 years too late. Like, I was like, man, because his voice is just amazing and
mhm,
his presence is wonderful. I mean, he's
He's
got all that,
awesome.
he's been in everything. I mean, such a wonderful artist. And,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed him when I got to see him perform in the show. I really, really enjoyed him. I always told him, I said, I wish I could talk like you. I want to keep my tenor, but I wish I could have that that nice baritone sound he has. It's really
So
beautiful.
yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, I mean, this whole virus thing is kicking everybody. It's just it's hard in entertainment right now. It really, really is.
Yeah,
That's where I'm struggling right now too. But
yeah.
we get over it. So when did you start performing?
I was about well, I would say I started performing when I was maybe 5 or 4, in church, school. It really didn't get serious for me. I was about 11 years old, and that was the first time I actually realized this was a thing, because I had to work. I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
care if you were, they didn't care if you were a little boy. It was it was hard. And I'm so grateful, I mean, back then you could have mean teachers with a twinkle in their eye. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
it was great. And I had those kind of instructors, but they were brilliant teachers. They really knew their craft. They really cared for the kids. And they really weren't about letting you get away with anything,
Uh,
because they believed in you so much that,
mm,
yeah, I'm gonna push you away from me, as far away from mediocrity as possible. And I was very fortunate. It was the Boys Choir of Harlem. It was actually founded and directed by a wonderful musician by the name of Dr. Walter J. Turnbull, the late great Dr. Walter J. Turnbull, a very serious man, brilliant, um, a big personality, terrified me. I mean, he was so huge. I mean, he had these big old hands. They looked like glove mitts, and and he wasn't afraid to use them. and but he was I look back now, I'm
mm.
so grateful for that upbringing. It was tough, and he would say it. He would tell us, he said, listen, if you can survive me, you can handle anybody. And he was right. I mean, I you cannot intimidate me, because after growing up with that, it's true. But he was just great. He really had a great love for the Harlem community, and really building young men to really be good citizens more than musicians. But what he gave us through music was such a fantastic appreciation for a wide range of music. And the thing I think I admired about him most was he never uh, exalted one kind of music over the other.
Okay.
Mozart was just as important to us as Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know,
Ah,
and,
okay.
and Bach was just as important as Billy Strayhorn. So we never saw we understood that there was good music and there's bad music, and that's all. And as a
Right.
result, it was really rigorous. It was hard, lots of hours of rehearsal, but boy, was the payoff great. I mean, I got to travel all over the world. I was a kid traveling the world. I sharing the stage with some
Mm.
incredible people. I mean, like, I think about it now, I feel like Forrest Gump. I was like, I went to the White House a couple of times and met some really
Right.
legendary people who are generally always very cordial to us, sharing their wisdom and knowledge, being able to perform in front of statesmen. The one thing that stuck out in my mind that I got to do that I will cherish for the rest of my life, and it just is so deep in my soul, is I was among the chorus of boys who got to sing for the late great Nelson Mandela upon
Ooh,
his release from
wow.
prison when he came
You
to
were
JFK.
in
Yeah,
this?
yeah. I mean,
How?
it was like I was literally floating,
I
because
bet you were.
yeah, we studied about him, we heard about him
Yes.
our whole life. It was like, and
His,
then
you want to talk history? Oh my
right,
goodness.
yeah, and then to see that man, really, like, to see him like
And
he's
be a
free.
part of that
Yeah, yeah,
history making event when he got out. See,
right.
you see, I'm getting envious again. You guys really making me crazy here. Stop it. I love it. I really do. I have to mention something here. I can't get away without mentioning this. Uh, with the circus, with Ringling Brothers, uh, you were a pioneer with Ringling Brothers. Is that correct? With the ringmaster
Yes, yes,
in
three
American?
times over.
Oh, see, this jealousy is just compounding here. Three times over. He had to say that. Gee,
I thought I'd throw some more
yeah.
gasoline on the fire.
Wow. Great. Yeah. So that ought to be a great feeling, the pioneer three times over kind of thing. I love it. Yeah.
It's fascinating. It was great. I mean, it's very humbling. And, I wrestled with it a little bit because I just wanted the people to pay attention to what I would do.
Yeah.
But it really took me to run into different people throughout the country to
Mhm.
really understand what it meant. It does matter. Representation matters. And
Oh, yeah.
meeting. I used to meet mothers all the time who said, I had to bring my son. I wanted them to see you. I wanted my kids to see you. I wanted them to see you, and, then you get the one, I mean, there would be busloads of ladies, what have you, would come to the show. And it was so amazing. But the one thing I tell you that really gave me a sense of how meaningful it was when my grandparents came to the show. And
Ooh,
they came to the show in
yeah.
Chicago. And my grandfather had the lynching because he was
Ooh,
trying to unionize back in Arkansas. They were trying to lynch him. He escaped it.
ooh.
And so I'll never forget it. Him and my grandmother, we're talking about they're passed on now, but two of the strongest, most
Mhm.
stoic people, great personalities you'll
Right.
ever meet, but when they got to the circus, they were like little 6-year-olds, and it was,
Everyone becomes a child when they get to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it really is for children of all ages. And to see them in the glow of that kind of happiness was a big deal to me. But my grandfather told me something that I'll never forget. After the show, I went up to see them and we hugged and we talked. And he said, he goes, Johnny boy, he said, this is something else. He said, there was a time I couldn't sit anywhere I wanted to. And here I am, I'm sitting in these prime seats, and there's my grandson in the middle of this whole thing. And that hit me. I said, wow,
Yes.
that's what it's
Yes.
about. That's what,
That's
and
something you carry for life.
yeah,
And
and it's
pass it on
wonderful.
to your kids. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I had this wonderful publicist who she was, I mean, just amazing. She taught me everything about media, but her name was Barbara. And Barbara once taught me, because, I used to struggle with it so much. And she said, you know what? Don't take that away from your audience. You don't really have a right to take away that experience from them.
Right.
When and I really got what she was saying. Young and old, everyone viewed it differently. I would meet kids from areas of cities that we often ignore, and
Hmm.
their teachers would bring them on purpose to come see the show. And it was life changing to some of these kids because it just wasn't a concept. Because, the ringmaster in the image, in the imagination of the public, he's the boss. He's the
Yes.
guy in charge.
He runs the
Nothing
show.
happens. Right. Nothing happens until he says something. So
Yes.
for those children who are told all the time through media or whatever that they're no big deal and what have you, and they see blight, and to come and see this show where you have all of these different types of people from all over the world, all these exotic animals, and the guy in the middle of it looks like you, and nothing happens until he says
Yeah.
something. It's a pretty powerful thing for a kid who might think, I'm not too much.
And the other part of that is, can you imagine in the years you were doing this, the children that you touched?
Yeah.
Millions and millions of children, not to mention the adults. You
You know,
touched
it's
me,
I
you know?
still receive letters. I'm very fortunate. I still receive correspondence every now and then. A young man wrote me a couple of years ago, and he's now in college. And he
Mhm.
told me, he said, you don't remember me. He said, but you wrote me when I was younger. I came to your show, and we talked a little bit. And I guess his parents got me to write him, and I wrote him. And he told me what I said in the letter about, how he could do whatever he wanted to make sure he reads a lot and things like that. And he told me what college he goes to and what he's studying. He said, I just wanted you to know, I have that letter. It's framed and I look at it every day as inspiration. So anytime I'm feeling a little like off course, I just go back to that letter, what you told me. And I'm thinking, this is wild, man. Like 18 years, that meant a whole generation grew up on my voice. So to think of that, such a privilege, and a responsibility. And so,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So to get the show that young, I would say, to Ringling Brothers' credit, they took a risk,
Mm. Yeah,
because
that was a risk.
yeah, early 20s, you're wild and crazy guy, it could have went south, but fortunately it did.
Yeah, yeah, that
Well, with all all the phones and the technology stuff, I think Ringling really hard because live entertainment is just not the same anymore. It's hard, you know, and and that's where I'm at. 'Cause I'm 21 years old. I run another job, and now starting my own company and promoting shows throughout Tucson and hopefully go global with this thing. Then it's hard to get people in the seats. You
You
know.
know, there's so many factors. I don't, I think technology, it can be used correctly. I definitely think Cirque du Soleil was doing that wonderfully. They really figured out how to use online content and other shows as well. Even the Bernardo show, they're really learning how to use social media to really reach out to their audience, and it's really having an effect. I think in many respects, uh, and it's weird because Ringling Brothers, if you think about it, you know, uh, the circus as a genre was really ahead of everybody
Right.
when it came to promotion, when it came to really in media and marketing and how to really, galvanize people's imagination. So I think, in many respects, the genre itself will have to remake itself. And quite frankly, all live
Was
events will
every
have to,
world.
yeah, they'll just have to figure out how to redo this thing now that we have the possibility of pandemics, that we have all of this technology, and anybody can be famous now. I mean that's
Yeah.
part of the problem. You have
Yeah.
people who are YouTube stars,
I
you know,
know.
who
Yes.
it's so weird. I mean, yeah, they didn't go to Juilliard. They didn't go to, they didn't go, they didn't
Right.
go study a craft or anything. They just put some Batman mask on their face and got a grumpy cat,
Yes.
and 10
Absolutely.
million people watch them. I saw a lady, ASMR. Have you ever heard of this? This lady, she eats pickles and potato chips. It's just sound therapy. It's the
Yeah.
wildest thing. She got 37 million views. 37 million views just to eat
Yes.
pickles. I said, and I wasn't upset. I was a little jealous, but I said, man, more power to you. If you could get people to do that, more power
Yes.
to you.
Yes. And
I
there's
love
more
it.
coming out there with insane things that can make a zillion dollars. Yeah, a bazillion views. Amazing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, you
it's
and Kyle have
so.
like the same type of thinking or friends or know the same people kind of thing. Because Kyle, you like go out on the circus kind of things for the audition. Didn't you audition for this a
I
couple?
didn't actually. When David Shipman was retiring, they were holding auditions, and I was still in high school. And I was like, man, if anything, this could have just happened after I graduated. Because when Circus Extreme was in Phoenix, I told David, I was like, have you found anyone for that spot or whatever? And he's like, no, go ahead and audition. I was like, man, how awesome that. Ryan Mullis was one of the casting directors, and it's just But I had the hope and the energy. I was still in high school, like I just couldn't do it. I was in literally my last year of high school, and
Yeah.
failed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would have ruined your life. It would have ruined your life. No,
Yeah.
I really think, look, that kind of lifestyle it's wonderful. It's beautiful. I mean, everything you can imagine, infamous and innocent and infamous as well. And I tell you, I really learned to be a professional at Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. I mean, you know, I learned very quickly you can't be a rock star
Same time.
because,
Right.
yeah, yeah. Listen, I was early 20s, and I thought, oh man, yeah, go to the club. And you have it's so crazy. You have all this energy when you're that young. We're doing like 3 shows a day, and you just bounce up and go. And eventually it catches up with you, it just
Yeah.
does. And it caught up with me pretty early in the tour. And I paid for it a little bit, but I got back on the horse and I said, you know what? I'm going to have to pace myself. I'm going to be careful, have fun. I always tell people when you get opportunities like that, yes, go have all the fun you want, but be careful, be smart. don't do anything that's going to cost you 20, 30 years down the road. You know, you know,
Absolutely.
enjoy yourself. Have experiences, because that's really what it's about. The experiences. That's what we
Experience.
miss most,
Yeah.
most of all. Yeah. Oh my goodness. There's nothing like seeing this country on the rails. We were living on in the world's largest privately owned train. And
Right. I get
yeah. So on Mondays, I mean, every Monday I get nostalgic because Mondays would be a travel day. It would be a travel day, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think there are films about the circus and everything. What was that? I think I remember, was that like Water for Chocolate or something?
Oh,
Water
water
for
for elephants.
elephants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
water for
Was
elephants.
that the
Yeah.
name of it? Was that the one?
Water for elephants. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, and I saw that, which I thought kind of interesting. That
You
backdrop
know,
is not regular backdrop for films or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is, I think it'll take people who authentically live the life
Right.
to tell a story. And there's some really wonderful storytellers throughout circus. The late great Colonel John Harriet was. I wish, goodness, I mean, I wish I would have had the mind to be a documentarian when he was around. I mean, that guy was just a wellspring of circus knowledge and I mean history, and I mean just his own family. He was a descendant of was Pike
Mhm.
dog, the explorer.
Um, I, g- I,
I don't know.
wait a
Oh
minute.
goodness.
It's on the tip of my tongue. I know you're talking about. Uh, I can't think. It's amazing when one person can think of something,
Right.
the other one everybody draws a blank. That's amazing.
But
Yeah.
anyway, he established one of the more popular American circus families, the Harriet. His daughters are wonderful animal trainers, as well as his grandchildren. I mean, great guy. The few times I interacted with him, he was always a gentleman, always kind, just wonderful, just beautiful voice. And I mean, he was one of the real glorious personalities in American circus, but he was known to be a writer, and known to be a wonderful raconteur. People just sit around. He's one of those people where he starts talking, you just shut up.
Right.
That's what you do. And so I wish we could have, I guess, recorded more of that, because there's so many folks like him, with this great history around the world. And I think that's really what's going to have to happen is, someone who comes from that world, who
Yeah.
has who's gifted with a pen and gifted in maybe filmmaking and storytelling, who knows how to really properly tell the story. Because as with everything, if you don't tell your own narrative, somebody else does, and it gets mangled.
Yes.
So, um, you know.
Well, with the Greatest Showman coming out, do you think circus would have died before if it came out before the circus ended? Do you think it would have kept it alive more?
Oh no, I think it would have. I think it would have actually. We all talk about that. It was like everybody says that. I think the popularity of circus would have it would have given it a second life. Definitely. There's something about cinema. Movies are amazing. They
Yes.
reach
Yes.
so
I
many people.
that
Yeah.
movies are amazing.
Yeah,
Been
they
there,
reach.
done that.
Yeah, they reach so many people in one sitting. One sitting, you can reach tens of millions of people. I mean, it would take me a couple of tours, a few
Yeah.
tours to actually get that number. But just one showing, and you can reach tens of millions. And it was an exciting movie. It was a wonderful, charming story. Hollywood liberties, but nothing to me that was offensive. Um, I love the music of the movie. It was everything you want entertainment to be. You just want to be taken away, and I applaud their effort, um, especially since they made fools of the suits in Hollywood, who always think they know better, because they didn't put any real backing behind it. They thought it was going to be a flop, and it was word of mouth. It was word of mouth. when I heard the score, I said, this is a hit. Just on the score alone, I was like,
Yeah.
this is a hit.
It was
They
very
didn't
good.
think it was going to be a hit. And I think it made almost $400 million at the box office, way above its budget.
Well,
Wonderful.
I told Alex to go see it. The Fox Theater back here. They're doing it, and they're doing a sing along and stuff. So they had a couple people on the lobby kind of doing photo ops and stuff. They asked me to be ringmaster and have my own little red coat and black hat and stuff. And it was cool because they had the stilt walkers, they had jugglers and stuff. And Alex even was like, I actually enjoyed this movie more than I had.
Kyle, talk me into it. I've never sing along. I never particularly liked the movies where the little ball is bouncing around in the room. I've never really liked. Really had to talk me into it.
Right.
Sing along, a musical. I'm not a musical person. I did Dreamgirls. I was Jennifer Hudson's father in Dreamgirls.
All right.
Right, and it's a musical, and I'm thinking, I'm sure glad they didn't want me to sing because it would have been a flop. Dreamgirls was the only musical I really was crazy about.
Yeah.
When I went to the show and with Kyle and saw the sing along, I was flabbergasted. It was so wonderful. It was amazing. It was really amazing.
And I'm like you. I really didn't want to go see it.
Right.
My wife pulled my arm, and of course you go, okay, yes, honey. And
Yes, that's what you do.
you want to keep a happy home. So I went, and I'm glad.
You do.
Yeah. No, I'm glad I did because she was right. She was right on. The kids went, and my daughter knew the entire album by 24 hours later. She knew every song. So I knew it was going to be a big hit. I was like, wow, it's one of those, where the songs are beautiful. They're meaningful, they're catchy. And again, it's about the spirit of exceeding yourself, which is really the charm of circus, sure, most people aren't going to fly out of a cannon or do a triple somersault off a trapeze, but there's something about encountering the impossible. And that will always be, no matter how technologically savvy we become, we will always be attracted to miracles. And I think live events will live on. We'll just have to become a lot more creative and savvy with how we do it. And I think it will be for the better. I think the technology is a good thing if it's used correctly. I think it could be a wonderful, wonderful addition to what we're doing. I mean, look, I think people need to start picking the brains of that Vince McMahon of WWE. Good Lord, that guy.
Name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, I mean, he cannot die, man. His imagination, man. I remember, when it was WWF, and it was, and it was, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, listen to your parents, and now it's like you smack girls and nobody says anything. I'm like, amazing. It's like, wow. I mean, the stuff they do now is like unreal. But look, the guy he really knows how to flow with the times and kind of set the course of things. And I think along the lines of what he's done in being able to tap into the pulse of the public, I think is really genius. It's genius. You can argue about the content of the work, but listen, it's still majorly successful. And he's doing something right because he really knows how to tap into change right before it happens.
Those guys are great stuntmen. I did stunts in the movies, and they are some of the best stuntmen around.
And really brilliant people. I've met a few of them, and it's almost shocking because you think they're one thing and they're not. I mean, a lot of them, some of them are very scholarly. They just wanted to be in the spotlight. It's some really fascinating people. And I think if I ever had the opportunity, probably I wouldn't wrestle. I don't have it in me, but I maybe announce or something like that. I would have fun doing that. I'd have fun.
Yeah.
I'd have fun doing something like that.
Well, as we kind of end our call here, Alex, you have anything else?
I wanna touch on something. I want to change a little gear.
Sure.
Something I want to ask about. I understand you did a TED talk.
Yes.
Now, can you explain what a TED talk is? I know what it is, and I always kind of wish I could do it, but can you explain exactly for people that may not know what is exactly a TED talk? I love
Well,
the concept.
yeah, I mean, I love the concept too. Just a little correction. I was supposed to do a TED talk. It was a TED talk. Unfortunately, the people who were handling it, they mishapped on the
Oh,
licensing.
okay.
And
Okay.
so then it ended up just being talks at Harvard. Uh, so I
Oh,
was like, great. But I mean, I love the forum. I love what they were doing. It's non-paid, of course, but the exposure is explosive. The subject matter they had me speak on was the topic of the TED Talk was what if I'm wrong? And
oh,
so the
okay.
different speakers spoke on various subject matters in their expertise. For some reason, I fit into that equation. I mean, we had forensic psychologists, uh, uh,
Oh, okay.
uh, a forensic artist. You had this wonderful I think she was a biology student, and a few other scientists. Really, really smart people. So I'm going, how
Right.
did I get here? And I even asked the person who solicited me, and she said, "Well, I have a thing for crime and circus." I said, that's interesting. So I ended up I ended up doing. And my talk was the adventure may be in the detour. And so I really gave I used my personal story of,
Mhm.
knowing for sure I was going to be an opera singer. That's what I was going to do. I had the fortune of seeing Placido Domingo at 13. I was in Japan, and it blew my mind. Like everything in me came to life. And I was like, I got to do that. And
Yeah.
I was on that road. I went to LaGuardia High School of Music and Art, Performing Arts. I was in a boys choir of Harlem. I went to the Hart School of Music, studied with a fantastic internationally known opera singer who was really wonderful, taught me a lot. And the plan was to go off to Europe and to continue my studies. And what do you know?
Yeah,
So,
that came.
yeah,
I understand you met your wife in the circus.
I sure did. I met her. It was really
See,
wonderful.
things work out. You wanted to go to Europe and wind up here, and now you. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and we laugh about it all the time because one thing about, and you probably already know this. The theatrical life can
Yes.
can be a lonely one, especially if
Yes.
you're working constantly. But
Mhm.
opera singers, I mean, it's almost like being a monk.
Yeah.
It's the Mount Olympus of vocalism.
Yeah.
And it is a sacrifice. Some of the
Mhm.
greatest, especially the greatest female singers. Many of them they didn't get married, no families. Opera was their life, and
Right.
I suspect had I gone that route and continued, I'd be in the same boat because I mean, when you're really working, you're on the road for
Yeah.
10 months out of the year. Y- uh,
Yep.
You know, so I know some opera singers who are married, they make it work. I know others who they're very realistic. It's like, look, it's me and the music.
Yeah.
Um, I know, with the circus, what a privilege I had. I mean, not only did I meet my wife there, we were able to travel with our children.
Ooh.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, we were able to travel
Amazing.
with because we had a school and a nursery on the road. So, and it made sense because, that's the tradition of circus. Circuses are usually built by families, presented by families to families. So you had to accommodate that. And also a lot of those crafts are passed down one generation to another. So you have to have them on the road with you to teach them.
Right.
But obviously I wasn't giving voice lessons to my kids, but
Yeah.
they had a great time. They actually ended up working our last tour. they actually got hired when
Really?
we went to the scripted version. We did Out of This World. It was a space odyssey, and
On
what they did,
ice.
yeah, we did it on ice, and
Mhm.
so they had it set up where my son played me as a little boy who
Oh,
dreamed of being in a
that's perfect.
circus. Yeah, he was wonderful, and my daughter was his understudy. So it was great. They both got in the top hat, and I told her, I said, "This is wonderful. This is your first job ever. You know,
Mhm.
you could say your first job ever was with the greatest show on earth." So it was really charming, a very charming existence.
Right. Well, actually, that was my. Did any of your kids want to follow circus footsteps? But yeah, that's amazing.
Now I know there's a lot of talk on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you can imagine. When you posted that photo of you in front of Feld's office, it went viral, and everybody's like, "Is the circus coming back? What's happening? What's happening?" What I mean, I'm sure you can't really say, but you know, is there a possibility it could come back?
I have no idea.
Oh,
Honestly,
okay.
I was literally there visiting with a friend of mine, and yeah, I was there visiting with a couple of friends of mine, and I'll be honest. I thought, let me be naughty because I know how folks are. So, so my friend said, "Don't you tag me in that picture because I know what you're doing." I said, "No, I'm just taking a picture. I just want to, this where I've been." And then
Ah,
Alexander Lacey, I had dinner with Alexander Lacey maybe a couple of weeks later. He and his wife, I'm gonna drive by. I'm gonna do the same thing. It's Alexander Lacey goes by, takes a picture, and it just explodes. You know, you know, because I know how folks are. But
yeah.
in many respects, listen, hey, it really is a testament. Look, the pictures went viral. It's a testament
Right.
to how much people really miss it, how much they really really treasure it, and they would love to have it back. I don't know what the Fells are going to do with that. I haven't spoken to them really since 2017. I wish them well as always. They gave me a
Right.
wonderful opportunity in my life. I know they have bigger fish to fry now regarding what's happened with their
Jurassic
business.
World and
Yeah,
Disney on
I mean,
Ice and
yeah, yeah. I mean, they had to shut all that down because of this
Mhm.
pandemic. They had to shut everything
yeah.
down. So,
Mhm.
we'll see what happens when they pick back up. And who knows? I do believe personally that in some capacity it may come back. My fear, honestly, as a fan of it, I can't imagine Ringling Brothers without the extravagance.
Right.
And that's what I
Yeah.
was talking to my dad about. When I saw that post and on Facebook, and people's like, "Oh my God, look at Ringling's website. It's all revamped now, and Feld has the audition page back up." I immediately called my dad. I called Eric, not like he really cares about the circus, but I called my dad. I call Eric. I call everybody I know. I was like, "Oh my God, is Ringling Brothers actually coming back?" And I was also thinking, is like, you can't sell off all your utilities. You can't sell off your train cars. You can't sell off all your animals too. And if it comes back, I'm like, is it going to be as big as it used to be? And that's something that really can change people's lives.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the ball is always in their court.
Mhm.
He who has the goal makes the rules. So
There you, there you go. That's an old true saying
yeah.
for sure.
Well, Alex, you have anything else to say?
I Yeah, I have something very important to say. I am so thrilled, Jonathan, to have you and here and talk to you. It's a thrill. I feel like kind of like I'm a kid now. I can talk to the ringmaster of Ringling Brothers.
Well, I
It's such
appreciate
a
it.
joy.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you
so
so
I
joy.
much.
appreciate your
It's been
time.
a pleasure.
Hey,
Hey,
we got to get you out of here, Tucson. We got to do a show.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
listen,
telling you.
absolutely. I really appreciate you thinking of me, and you're gonna make it, kid. You'll be a big mogul. You'll have it all over the world. You'll do
oh yeah.
good.
I
I
mean,
kind
we
of
tried.
like for some reason.
We tried, but your agent's like, "Yeah, sorry, not gonna happen today." I was like, "Man,
No,
Well, you
we'll
know
get
what?
each other."
I mean, because I think we were proposing like this April. So,
Yeah.
who knew what would happen? So, things will work out the way they're supposed to. And I think, that's just the way it is. One thing we know for sure, we are not in control. And we
Right.
can only,
I love that.
we're not in
No,
control.
we're not in control.
That's it. So
So who is in control?
that's right. That's all. There you go. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. I just
Awesome.
go. I don't even worry no more. I just go, well,
No, I wrote this book called "Go Home: A Guide to Achieving Your Goals While Dealing with Life's Inconveniences." It was only 46 pages. It's on Amazon and all that. But one of the things I put in the book, which is it's about how simple God made life. And know what? People can't seem to get this. It's just this simple and can be applied to a lot of things in life. If you have a problem and you can fix it, what's the problem? Don't
Right.
spend a thousandth of a second going crazy and screaming at your phone. If you can fix it, cut to the chase and fix it.
yeah,
And if you have something you think is a problem and you can't fix it, what's the problem? You can't fix it anyway. So what are you beating your head against the wall going crazy? If, if
right.
someone has a problem, there's only one thing they have to do. And it's so simple, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
If someone has a problem, the only thing you have to do is figure out which category it fits in. Does it fit into the I can fix this category? Or does it fit into the I can't fix this category? And once you figure out which category it fits in, act accordingly.
yeah. Amen
How,
to that.
how simple is that?
I like that. Yeah,
And
I like
it
that.
can be applied to life in general, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, but it has really been a pleasure here with you.
Yeah, thank you for your
Thank you,
time.
Say the name again,
Jonathan
Johnathan
Lee
Iverson.
Iverson.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Extraordinarily, thank you. And I know Kyle thanks you because Kyle wants to be like you when he grows up.
No, he's going to be an owner. He's going to be owner.
Yeah, kind of like that kid for some reason. I don't know.
He's
What-
likable. He's
yeah,
likable. He's great.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Hey, God bless, Jonathan. Thank you
God
so much.
bless you too. Thank you.
And thanks for watching
Oh,
live.
yeah.
Yeah, tune in every Monday and Friday for another episode of Live with Kyle and Alex. Brand new guest, brand new show. It's gonna be
Okay.
awesome.
Thank you,
got you.
folks.
All
God
right.
bless.